Let's start with Tyler Golden, who's just out. What attracted you to him?
There's a number of reasons. At this stage of the season, you look at loads of bits and bobs. You look at various players, and obviously we with Brins, and we're not sure when we'll get Brins back. So we're looking at a right back. We look at the way we play and what we expect of our full-backs. So when we start going through the qualities of different right backs, we sort of whittle it down from maybe sort of 6 or 7 options down to 2, and he was one of them that we thought brought a lot of the qualities, and obviously at this stage of the season you're looking at are they available, will a club let them out? A lot of clubs are sort of battling the hatches down for the long haul now for the rest of the season. So it whittled down to 2 people, and he was one of them, and in all of our minds he come out as the strongest one, so delighted to have him.
Has he got a chance of playing tomorrow? He's in the squad. Could he play?
Don't know is the answer. I think tomorrow, throwing him straight in, not knowing his teammates, maybe a little bit soon. Possibly the best option may be to give him tomorrow to see what we're about, and the rest of the week to train and get to know the boys, and then introduce him at the weekend. But haven't made that call, and obviously a lot of things can happen. Players can get injured overnight. I've seen it, so.
I wonder whether his signing, you mentioned you wanted to bring someone in, but I wonder whether there's any change in the sort of time frame for Richard Brindley's return. You said originally around about a month. Is that still probably the case?
Yeah, it's a little bit sort of grey areas. It's a month. Might be a month for him to come back and get into full training. It might be a month for him to come back and be fit to play games. It's a little bit of a grey area. So if it is full training, then you need another 2 weeks on top to get him back to where he needs to be if we've got a run of games coming up thick and fast. So initially with Tyler we've sort of said let's do a month, and if we need to extend, then we'll have that conversation with Salford.
We'll touch more on form at the moment in a moment, but are you happy with your squad now with what you've got, or would you like to maybe still see areas where you think you could add and improve it?
I think you can always improve your squad. I don't think there's ever this stage of the season's hard. Most clubs don't want to let out. They've done their January transfer window. They're settled on their squad. There's not that many that are desperate to get people out. So it's a little bit harder. But I think it's hard because if I look at the squad, if we get Callum Roberts back soon, if we get everyone fit and Richard Brindley fit, I'm going to have a job potentially at that point picking a 16. And it's hard then, you've got to keep people happy. So it's all, while we'd all want 22, 23, 24 players, then you've got sort of 8, 9 players that you've got to try and keep happy that aren't even in a 16-man squad, and that becomes difficult.
Just want to touch on testing, and it's something that Notts have publicly said that they've done, and you've been one of the only clubs in the National League to do it in the past. I realise now that the goalposts have slightly moved, and the National League have made it mandatory. There's some government support, I believe. How much of a relief, and how good is that for you and the team and all the clubs really?
Well, it's a massive relief, but it's like we know it's 4 months too late. You look at where we are in our fixture list. You look at. I remember watching on a Saturday and there was 2 games in our league being played and the rest were called off due to COVID. Testing gives you a chance of, if you test regularly, if you test twice a week, you have a chance of isolating the one rather than having one player and then going, well, we don't know, the rest of the squad might have it, and then you call a game off because of it. And that could go on for God knows how long, and you self-isolate for 10 days and then another player could get it another week, and it's a never-ending story. If you're testing and you're testing regularly, you'll get to know that, all right, you might have that case in isolation, but the rest of the squad are with your knowledge, okay, and you can go ahead with the game.
Touch wood, you've been through your worst part as a club in terms of the virus, but I wonder how it's been for you. I guess you dread seeing a player's name on your phone when perhaps you don't expect them in the morning to be ringing you.
Normally comes through from the physio. They always go through to the physio. So if I ever get an early morning message from the physio, I do see the physio's name and I always panic. But that's natural for a manager.
Okay, let's talk about Saturday. It doesn't. I wasn't there, but it doesn't sound like the best of performances. I wonder whether it was a slight hangover from midweek, because you weren't happy with what you saw in midweek. Do you think there was a hangover that kind of rolled into one then?
Not really. I think midweek probably I was a little bit harsh on them. I thought we were better than I thought, although We still can be better. I thought we controlled 80% of the game during midweek and didn't probably do enough in the final third. The thing we found hard at times this season, a lot of teams have shown us a lot of respect. If you go back to even teams like Solihull, who are a very decent team in this level, they came back in and they tried to stop us doing what we're good at. And that's the hard part of this level, when teams come to stop you creating chances and obviously scoring goals with a game plan to catch you on the break. It's hard to break that down. What we experienced on Saturday was something a little bit different. We experienced a team that smothered us and tried to not let us breathe or even get any of our game going. And then there becomes a different question, and that different question is, are we brave enough and sharp enough to play round that scenario? Because if we do, we're going to find ourselves in some really good positions. If we're not brave enough and we can't get the game going, can we have plan B, which is to not be afraid to play forward, to play off of forwards, to be good at that side of the game as well. And in the first half we was poor at both. We didn't do either well. In the second half we did it a lot better, dominated the game. But once you give a team that 1 goal head start to hang on to, you make it difficult for yourself. And the other thing is, having watched the game back, they worked incredibly hard to the point where 4, 5, 6 of their players went down with cramp with 20 minutes to go. That's how much they put into that performance to try and get a result against us. And really, it was a 0-0 game. Although they were the better team in the first half, other than one set piece, it would have been a 0-0 game. We got a bit sloppy right at the end of the game, but that was chasing it. And you come away with a 0-0 saying, okay, we didn't really get ourselves going there. So I'm not going to be too harsh. What we've been doing has been working quite consistently and quite consistently well. We just got to keep trying to do it well.
I wonder how hard or otherwise it is to get the players to adapt. I noticed you just touched on it there, and in your post-match interview with Charlie Slater, you said that you felt they did what you asked of them in the second half, and you've just touched on it there. But I wonder how, you perhaps go into the game with one mindset and then think, well, we're going to have to change things up. How easy or hard or otherwise is it to kind of instill in the players that they maybe have to try something a bit different and maybe something that's out their comfort zone?
Well, players should never expect a game to be a particular way. Loads of times I could show tactically what shape the opposition play, what they do, etc., what we think's going to happen. But then when the game comes around, the opposition, because we're Notts County and they're away to us, have come up with a totally different game plan for how they've played their last 5, and we've got to adapt to that. So everything we do in our patterns of play, in our work, is to say, if we get pressed, A, B or C. If we don't get pressed and they sit off, we've got to do, D, E and F and so on. And so the players should know all the scenarios, and that's what we've trained them for and coached them for.
I wonder how much you can take from the things you liked in the second half into Tuesday's game. Can you kind of take that as a positive in any way?
I think the key, what I said to the players after the game was, we weren't brave enough in the first half. We went missing a little bit, and we lost too many battles. And if you don't, the old football saying, earn the right. If you don't earn the right to be the better team, then you won't be the better team, and that's what we probably didn't do. So, whilst I didn't have a go at the boys, and we had a good chat after the game about how we all felt, but it was a case of, right, we know how we feel, we know what we didn't do. Let's make sure it doesn't happen again.
Let's just touch on Tuesday night. What are you expecting from Stockport? Where will the challenges really come from that game, do you think?
I think, obviously, new managers trying to instill new ideas. I know he likes to play good football, because I've seen his team at Brighton when I've played against their under-23s, and he was coach there. Obviously, their pitch is a bit of a concern at the moment. I look at a lot of the pitches on telly, and none of them look good. So it's that balancing act of how are we going to get results with the surfaces the way they are, with the weather the way it is. So, they've got enough in their team. I thought they were one of the strongest teams in the league earlier on in the season. The new managers come in trying to implement a new style, and they will get to grips with him because he's a good coach. So it's maybe they're in that transition phase, who knows, but I'm sure they'll be smarting from the fact they've had their sending off overturned, and they've got a player who they lost after half an hour on Saturday, so that was proven to be wrong, and they'll be smarting from that. They're at home, they're challenging for the top, so it's not going to be easy.
When you realise you're going to come up against a team with a bad pitch, like you're talking about Tuesday, do you kind of have a real sigh? Do you feel as though that maybe a bad pitch really hampers the way that deep down you really want to play the game?
Makes it more difficult, but I still think you can do it. We played there 3-4 weeks ago in the Cup, and we played really well and we passed it really well. So, it's find the solutions. Every game's different. You know, the message always to the players is let's work out really quickly how this game's going, the ebb and flow, and let's find the solutions. Because when we've done it, which has been the majority of the season, I think there's probably only 2 games out of our 6 we've lost that I could honestly say we deserve to lose. So, if we can continue on that vein for the second half of the season, we won't be in bad shape.
Thank you very much, Neil. Thank you.
Cheers, Chris. Lee, over to you.
Thank you.
Just on Tyler, Neil, what can you tell us about his qualities as a player?
Athletic, really honest, hard-working. He'll run up and down that line, as much as he physically can. Got a good cross on him when he does get in there. On a lot of the footage and a lot of the homework we've done, he delivers a good ball in as well. He's physically quite robust, puts himself about, and wants to defend for his life. So all the qualities you really want from a right back. Having seen him in training today, even more impressed with his vision, his touch, his movement in tight areas. So fingers crossed, he'll fit in really well.
Is there a potential to extend that loan, or is it just for a month initially and that's it?
Well, it's a month initially, but what we don't want to do is have a player for a month, have Brindley fit and raring to go, Dion fit, raring to go, and then you've got a decision and you've got extra players sitting out. Listen, if he comes in and he's absolutely fantastic, you might want to extend it anyway and then let them all fight for their place. But for now, it's a month, helps us out of a situation where we've got a lot of games and only one right back, and then let's see where it goes.
In terms of when I spoke to you last about Matty Wolf, I know he'd be given some compassionate leave. Is that still the case, or is he back around the fold again?
No, he was back. He was on the bench on Saturday. He's back. Matty and his family, quite suddenly lost his nan, and they were a very close family. I think he's actually got the funeral this week, so it's a tough time for him. But he's initially, it hit him hard. He's wanted to be back in and around the boys, and he has been. So he obviously comes back into the fold now for the games that we've got coming up.
Lee, still with us? John Brindley, do you want to take over while Lee's internet sorts itself out?
Okay. Hi, Neil.
Hi.
Good afternoon. You the last 2 games you've sort of you had the 1-0 win at Kings Lane, where you in some ways sort of like played down the excitement of winning that game and made a very honest assessment of Notts' performance. And again on Saturday when the game went the other way, is this a conscious thing to not be too up or not be too down in the current circumstances?
I think that's me as a manager anyway. I don't, It's for the fans to get emotional. That's part of being a fan. That's the way it is. But as a manager, you've got to lead from the front. And if you're up and down, the players will never know where they stand. We need to be consistent. If we're gonna win the league or get promoted or win the cup, then we're not going to get it if I'm not stable. We're going to get it if I'm, considered and the players feel like that. Every week they can go and do their best with the freedom the manager gives them.
Do you look upon it as being a positive thing that after a defeat, another game comes quickly? I mean, you'd have no choice because after every game, another game comes quickly. But what's your psychology for lifting the players for tomorrow night?
Yeah, the games coming quickly is brilliant when you lose one. When you win one and you lose one, because the last thing you want is a full week on the back of a defeat as well. So, the psychology, we shouldn't need it. We're playing away to Stockport, one of the best teams in the league up there, rightly so, fancied as favourites early in the season, and we shouldn't need any motivation at all.
Just on a wider issue, today the government is making an announcement about the roadmap back, and one of those announcements, which has already been sort of leaked in advance, is that outdoor sports, i.e. grassroots football, is returning from the 29th of March. Also, in that, the vaccines minister has said that transmission rates are much, much, much lower outdoors. Do you still have a hope that there might be a chance of some supporters coming back before the end of the season?
Hope, yes. Realistically, is it something that I'm expecting? No. I kind of, in my own head, wrote the season off when things got so bad, but I will cling to that hope because it's really not nice playing in front of nothing.
Right. Okay. I'm just about through with that. Thank you for your help, and thanks for last week too.
Thanks, John. Lee, are you back with us?
Oh,
Is he in the waiting room?
He's back now.
Lee, can you hear us?
Yeah, sorry, my Wi-Fi went down.
Yeah, we noticed. The worst thing about that was, Lee, we had a still picture of you on the screen.
I tried to screenshot it, but ran out of time.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that.
No, take it
It's
away,
gone.
Lee.
It's gone down across the entire household, so I've had to hotspot. Where were we? Sorry, Matty Wolf.
Yeah, so Matty Wolf is he's over compassionate leave, although it's still something that's outstanding, and he's got a funeral to attend of a member of his family, but he's back in the fold now and right in with the boys, so he's back in the mix.
And how far is he away from sort of pushing into the first team? I mean, because obviously you've had such a long spell of games. Is he on the verge of breaking into there? Yeah,
absolutely. The thing we've had is we've had a long spell of games coming up, but then we've had a couple of cancellations. So, had the Bromley game been on and the Wrexham game been on, I think the rotation of the squad would have probably happened a lot earlier and players would have been in and out a lot more. But because we had them games cancelled, you ended up having almost a breather for one or two that you might have considered resting. And therefore didn't need to necessarily change the team from one that was unbeaten and doing well. So them games will come and they'll come thick and fast soon, and obviously we'll adapt to it then.
And just on the performance on Saturday, was there a bit of a hangover from Kings Lynn on Tuesday? Do you think? Because I mean you have got a hectic fixture schedule at the moment.
Well, there's two things for it. One thing is like fans will always want players they like on the pitch, but there is no way, shape or form I can play, say for argument's sake, Alex and Connell as my centre half pairing for Saturday, Tuesday for 6 weeks, because eventually I'll lose one of them. So at some point I need to start sharing the load between the two of them and Ben if we can keep them all fit, and vice versa at fullbacks, and vice versa with Ruben Rodriguez and Kyle Wooten. And it's going to be difficult because some of them are really important players to us, but we either lose them for 4 or 5 weeks or we lose them for one game as a rest period. Now, we are thick and fast with the games, and I've got to try and work out when the right time to give people a breather is and try and get the balance of the team right. But everyone's got to share the load, and unfortunately fans will not have their favourite player on the pitch at times because it's an impossible task.
How was the players' reaction after the game on Saturday?
Disappointed, their care. They went home, they had a rubbish weekend like I did. That's what happens in football, it ruins your weekend. You come back in, you get together, you feel better, and you start preparing for the next one, and we got one straight away. So it's going to be lots of twists and turns. We're not even halfway through our season, and it feels strange saying that at the end of February, but we're not even halfway through our season. There's lots and lots to go, and take the highs, take the lows, keep going, keep battling on, and we'll be fine.
Is this? I wonder if these are the types of games that are ideal for you when you've just come off on the back of a defeat, a big game, against one of the teams who you're supposed to be challenging for right up at the end of the table.
I hope so. We'll know more about 9:30, 9:45 tomorrow night. But of course, you want to come out of the game with something. We'll go there. We want to try and get top spot. That's our aim. So we'll go there to try and win. And if we end up not winning and coming away with a point, then great, but we'll respect the opposition because they deserve it.
And I think you've got 4 home games after this. Am I right in thinking that?
Yeah, and then we'll probably have something like 9 away on the trot or something like that afterwards. It's all jumbled up, and the consistency it is what it is. And Jason, when he was trying to rearrange fixtures, was often saying to me, "Oh no, we've got 4 on the bounce away from home. What shall I do?" And it's just like, there's nothing we can do. Let's just roll with it and play games and see what happens. It's a strange season.
But at least with 4 home games coming up, if you can obviously overcome tomorrow night, that really does give you a chance to build momentum, doesn't it?
It does, but teams come away from home to us and don't make it easy, as we found out. It took ages to break down Solihull, and we've had games. Obviously, Chesterfield come and did a number on us, so they're not easy. They're good teams. Halifax just went away and beat Torquay away from home, so every game's a real challenge. It really is, and we've got to make sure we haven't got the mindset of we're Notts County and we should turn up and win, because that's not how this league works.